Hello, fellow Curious Creatives out there. This is Mike Kepka, the Curious Creative, coming to you with another podcast about results-based video content that promises ROI for our clients. Today, we have with us TJ Packer, founder and creative director at Crew Pictures, based out of Provo, Utah. If you go to the Crew Pictures website, it says they're creating results-driven, high-end film and video for brands and network. And their crew is made up of dreamers, calculated risk takers, marketers, and talented filmmakers that fight for your brand's success. TJ studied film at BYU, has 4 kids, and says he personally knows Hugh Jackman thanks to a video campaign he ran for Jackman's nonprofit, Hopeland. TJ, it's so good to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me on The Curious Creative today.
You're listening to The Curious Creative with your host and video expert, Mike Kepka. Let's just get started here. Tell me what you mean by results-based high-end film making, specifically when it comes to results. What exactly are you talking about here?
Yeah, that's a great question, because originally when I started focusing on results-based marketing about a year ago, about probably the same time you started focusing on it as well. Before then, I was really just focused on delivering the most creative, highest quality video, something that people were really proud to show. And that's kind of where it stopped. And over the last year, I've really focused on figuring out, what does the video really need to do for the client from a numbers standpoint and still from the intangible standpoint. So for me, results-based marketing really is divided into 2 categories: tangible results and kind of the intangible results. The tangible results are the bottom line, the return on investment, the sales that it generates or the leads that it generates, or whatever the video is intended to do. But then also the intangible results, I would say, are still kind of the satisfaction that the client gets from showing it to others, from having it on their website, from just letting it represent their brand. And so those 2 aspects are really what I like to focus on with my clients and get clarity on what they really want to get out of the video, both from a tangible result standpoint and intangible.
I think you were about to tell me a story about different kinds of KPIs. Not everybody has the same idea of results, right? What?
Yeah. I recently learned, I was so focused with a recent client, I was so focused on the tangible results. So that's why I bring up the intangible, because, over the last year, I started really diving in and focusing on the tangible results, the KPIs, like how many leads it was supposed to generate, and really focusing on the return on video investment that this client could get. And as I was doing it, it was funny to me because this client actually, he's a very unique client. He didn't care as much about the tangible results as much as I thought, and most people do care about the tangible results, but this client was unique in that, he cared about the tangible results, but really, he really takes a lot of pride and satisfaction in his brand and just really wants to have people watching for entertainment value on his YouTube channel and on his website. And so I just learned from that experience that at the very beginning, at the very onset of video production, it's very good to get clarity on what does success look like for you, and what do you want out of these videos? And that's a little bit challenging for clients to answer when you just ask that question. But I found that as you ask, well, assuming you get these leads and assuming you get these sales from these videos, is there anything else you're hoping for from these videos? Or is there anything else you're wanting these videos to do for you or do for your brand? And by asking a question like that, I was able to really get to the heart of what he wanted even more than the tangible results, which surprised me. That was surprising to me to discover that, yes, he wanted tangible results, but even more than that, he really just cared about positive momentum and people enjoying his content that he was putting out there, people liking his brand.
Right. I think it's, I think you're right. You and I both have been sort of pivoting our company in the last year, and for me, it's sort of that conversation, the idea that we're creating content that means something and we're trying to get results. And yes, those results don't have to be a hard number, although that's what we're really trying hard to do, track the data and show hard numbers and dollar sign results. But that conversation really makes people feel like they're getting something, right? I think, even me 2 years ago, I would be, a client would say, well, we need a video and it needs to look like this. And I just go, okay, sounds great. But really, I wasn't part of the conversation. I wasn't part of the creative. And most importantly, I wasn't part of the question and or the answer to they have a problem, we're going to fix that problem with video, right?
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit more about how you might approach a client who says, yes, I'm interested in your results base. What can you do for me?
This will kind of be a theme in some of the other questions that we're going to go over today, is figuring out why people do what they do and really who they are. Like who are they? What is their identity? I think being able to figure that out is the best way to start, and then dive into the specifics on results. Because why people do what they do and who they really are, and who they are trying to project to their client base, I think is what's usually most important for clients to get across. And I think that that's really what people buy. You know, there's that cliche saying that people don't necessarily buy what you do as much as they buy who you are and why you do it. Or they don't make the decision. I know it's kind of a cliche saying, but I think that is a fair statement when people are choosing whom to go with. Like when they decide they want video, or when they decide they want whatever your client is selling, service or product. Once they decide they want something like that, they then decide to go with your client because of who they are and why they do what they do. And so I think starting there and just getting real clarity on why your client does what they do and what really drives them, then kind of helps organize, well, what results do we really want to go after? Yes, we want to go after lead generation, increased sales, a return on video investment. Of course, we want to get those tangible results. But again, I think starting even above that with the why kind of filters in the intangible results and really creates a very powerful video strategy for people when you're encompassing both.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Tell me about TJ, the person that they're hiring. I think that's really, I mean, I always feel like if I get a client, I've got them for a long time. And it's because, you know, I don't know about you, TJ, but people either love working with me or don't like working with me. And I get to keep the ones that like my personality. So what is it about you, and what's your success recipe for that on your end?
Yeah, absolutely. So who I am and why I do what I do, I think can be summed up to, years ago, I always wanted to do video production. I always wanted to tell stories through film and video since I was like 14 or 15. I was doing those cheesy, silly little magic tricks with a VHS camera as a kid. You know what I mean? And so I decided, and when Jurassic Park came out, I was blown away by every facet of the filmmaking, from visual effects to just even the storytelling side of it. So I think I really, from a young teenager, decided, I think I want to get into film and video production. As I got into it, I found myself, in order to kind of stay busy and pay, here in Utah, there is now a good film production industry. But, when I was a teenager and right out of college, it was kind of starting out and growing. Obviously, you kind of needed to go to LA if you really wanted to work on movies. So I kind of started, instead of working on movies, I started in the advertising world. And I was hired to be the creative director and the video department manager of an ad agency. And I stayed there for 10 years and learned so much and just loved it. But I got to the point where once, as 10 years went on, I kind of could tell that I was losing sight of my why. Like, why am I doing what I am doing? And then I ended up doing a video for a life coach who really helped reframe in my mind my why. And it comes down to 3 simple words. It comes down to knowledge, relationships, and experiences. And even right behind me, this wall of those 3 pictures right now, I need to reorganize them. But those 3 pictures right behind me are kind of show some relationships, some knowledge, and some experiences that are meaningful to me. And that's really why I do what I do. Like every video project I take on, I'm excited to learn a new skill and learn about a new client or company and learn what I can do to help them, and help them educate their clients so that their clients learn how they can help them. So I love the knowledge aspect of every project I take on. The relationships are always very meaningful. Like you said, it just, when it clicks, it really clicks. And when you meet a new client and get to form a new relationship, it's just really nice to develop those long-term relationships and really have our client's best interest at heart. And then that leads to just really neat experiences. You kind of name dropped at the beginning Hugh Jackman, and that's interesting. And I actually don't, I'm not besties with him. I don't have I'm not I don't call him or text him, but I will say that I did form a nice relationship with his wife and their nonprofit organization, his previous wife, Deborah Lee Furness. And that was awesome. It was really nice to not only have those experiences filming with them, but also get to know them and their family focus and the good work they're doing through their nonprofit. And so again, just the knowledge, relationships, and experiences was is my why and why I do what I do.
You should watch I don't know if you've seen it. There's a TV show called The Residents right now. It takes place in the White House, and Hugh Jackman is actually a running character in the show, but he's not at all in the show. They show his like half face or his feet lying on the ground, or it definitely can't hurt to know a couple of people. So TJ, tell me about the agency. I know you were. What did you do at an agency? And then I want to know what you weren't getting there that made you jump ship and run your own ship.
The agency was an awesome experience for me. I learned so much about, again, every project, every client, learning about what a client's needs are, how to manage complex projects, and not only how to manage complex projects, but how to manage multiple projects at the same time, right? There was a really good, we did a lot of volume there. We were doing a ton of commercials at the time. Advertising, we were doing a lot of traditional advertising, like on TV commercials. And then as I was there, it gradually shifted to doing more and more social media content and YouTube type advertising. So that's what I gained from that job.
Were you trying to get out of the social media scene, or what are you?
After about 10 years, and even before 10 years, about 7 years, I kind of started wondering, okay, am I plateauing? And then right at about 7 years, we had a new creative director come in and join forces with me. And I was the creative director over video. He was the senior creative director. And I learned so much from him. So right when I was about to leave at 7 years, thinking I had plateaued, he then came and I was able to learn a lot more. And then at around the 9.5-year mark, I started doing this passion project. Again, I kind of discovered that why, right? Like I did that video for a life coach, and as he was talking about, his whole thing was, he just said that the three main things that make a meaningful life are when people focus on knowledge, relationships, and experiences, and when they really focus their goals and their aspirations around those three things. And that kind of really stuck with me. And so then I decided, I'm doing all these commercials. We did a lot of commercials for the Utah Jazz, for Haichu Candies, for the Larry Miller dealerships. So we did a lot of car commercials. And that was really it. Like after doing so many car commercials, I did feel like, okay, I'm kind of plateauing, right? Like I'm not getting the knowledge, relationships, and experiences I want out of these car commercials. And so then I decided to pursue a passion project and start telling a series of stories. And I started a little passion project. It just kind of came over time. I found this interesting story I wanted to tell of this man that I heard about him on NPR. Actually, I was listening to I think This American Life. I think he was on This American Life. But anyway, I was listening to a podcast and I heard about this interesting man that they dubbed the San Francisco Spider-Man. He was dubbed the San Francisco Spider-Man because he was the most notorious burglar in San Francisco history. Like they could not figure out how he was breaking into certain restaurants and places. And so that's just what the cops kind of dubbed him. They dubbed him the San Francisco Spider-Man because they could tell he's like climbing in through skylights and things, but they still couldn't quite tell how he's breaking and entering. And anyway, it's a fascinating story about how this burglar got caught and turned things around in his life and kind of got out of it. And so I decided, I want to tell this guy's story on video. That was a really interesting podcast. I would love to do a little documentary style video of this and just do it as a passion project and see where it goes. And so then as I did it, I started finding other people that wanted to do their stories. And so I did 5 or 6 turning point stories. And so I just kind of organized those into a series that I call My 180. And they're a series of people turning things around in their lives, 180 degrees, told in 180 seconds. So I really kept them really brief stories, 3-minute stories.
This is the transition from agency to doing work. So what is the lead into where we are now with the Spider-Man of San Francisco story?
Yeah, absolutely. So then once I did those stories, I just fell in love and I realized, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to be more authentic in storytelling. I want to tell stories that I'm passionate about that are developing my knowledge, relationships, and experiences. And it just kind of snowballed from there. Like after I told that, I just started getting lots more requests for people to tell their stories. And so I realized, I have enough demand that I can break away and do my own thing. And that's what I've done ever since. So that's the summary to that story of why I was telling you all that.
It sounds like you're saying that if you have a stronger connection to the story you want to tell, that's going to make that better all around, more relatable to somebody, not just more enriching for the filmmaker, but I would imagine that, I feel like that's translated through the video that somebody sees that I make if I'm definitely connected to the story.
Absolutely. And to your point, and this kind of, and I'll share this in my takeaway at the very end, but yes, that's exactly right. Like finding your voice and figuring out your why just leads to better results for everybody.
Back to the agency thing, I just had an idea. Tell me what you know. We started the conversation about tangible results and intangible. Tell me your perspective from the inside of the agency. What is it that the agency is looking for in tangible results? A lot of times I go directly to agencies. They say, do this thing. I'd like to have that conversation about what we can do for them that they weren't thinking about.
Well, great question. In my experience, I don't know if this is your experience with agencies too. In my experience with most agencies, they actually don't focus on tangible results as much as you would think. In my experience, I'm not speaking for all agencies, but in the agencies I've worked with, they're really focused on, here's a creative brief, and we just want to do something that you're proud of, and they try to quantify results, but I just haven't found that they don't stick to it. They're not as relentless with making sure those results happen. And so that's what I've really liked about trying to add that to my services. What you're adding to your services is being relentless in getting results. So in my experience, when I was at the ad agency, we would focus on a creative brief, but that creative brief usually didn't start with that tangible result as the end in mind. It usually just started with the target audience, right? And most templates for creative briefs say, well, who's your audience? And they start there. I kind of like to flip that and say, before we even discuss who's your audience, what is it that yes, the audience needs to be one of the first questions, but what is it that your audience needs to do? And there's the famous saying that we talk a lot about here in our sessions together, which is the get to buy statement, right? Like, let's get target audience to do X by a certain amount of time, And so I think that's the best way to really organize a creative brief and to work with, and to just motivate agencies to do that. And they're all on board. I'm not saying they're not trying to do that, but I've just found that they're not as relentless in that because it's easy to lose sight of it. But when you get all three of those objectives into one statement, get target audience to do X by a certain amount of time, that really organizes your tangible objective very clearly.
Maybe what that means is that the agency scene is changing. In fact, we are the agencies now. I mean, I actually, most of my clients in the last year have been direct to companies. And so the first people I asked to get into the conversation are the decision makers. And those are not the people at the agencies. Those are the people that are head of the marketing or head of the company itself, depending on the size. And I think that's where showing those tangible results actually can really persuade people to jump in on this, right? It's hard to believe actually that people would invest in stuff without understanding where their money's going and how that's going to turn into, not just a return on what I cost, but an actual return for their business.
If I could say one more thing on that, I think we're seeing a transition where many agencies are stuck in like a traditional realm. And again, so many are cutting edge, and I'm not speaking for all agencies, but if there are agencies that are stuck in a traditional realm where I've just heard many agencies tell me, well, we can't track video. We can't track the success of the video. And it's like, well, no, we actually can. Yeah. So that's been a surprise to me. That's been a surprise to me to have either agencies or clients say, well, I just know there's no way to really track it, so we just got to throw money at video and hope it works. And it's like, no, that's actually not it.
That's so 5 years ago, right, TJ? I mean, there's so many ways to track it now, and I think that's, we're on sort of the edge of it, and it's really exciting. I think I mentioned this in my last podcast. I couldn't be in a more excited place to sort of look at our business in this sort of, it's not even avant-garde, just the way at which we are able to communicate why we're doing and why you need this from us, right? You're back to high-end video content. I mean, that's my area. It's your area. It's on your website. Tell me how high-end translates to that equation, right? I know we're trying to get tangible results. I know now that we need to feel connected to our story, but we need to have the basics, and the basics ought to be pretty darn good at this point, right? Tell me about your approach to that, TJ.
So we have kind of, I would say, two different types of clients that we're currently helping on the high-end spectrum. There's the types of clients that already have a lot of experience doing high-end video. They have internal marketing teams. And so they do have it dialed in, and they do know, and they basically just hire us as the creative experts and the ones to execute the high-end, like they hire us as a video production company. And then we also have a set of clients that want to be doing high-end, but they haven't been doing it quite yet. They don't quite yet have the budgets for it necessarily. They're not super established, but they do have good budgets. They just don't have gigantic budgets. And there's still hope for them too. There's really good, in fact, I would say that's really where the greatest progress is to be made for people, is if you have And when I say high end, just to give a definitive answer to our side of things, if you have around $10,000 to $20,000 starting to start doing some video each month, then you can really just get a great return on video investment at that level.
What do you think somebody can get for that kind of thing? We're doing retainer concept. It sounds like you're doing a very similar thing. We break our budgets down into 3 areas basically. It's if it's retainer, it's a monthly production cost. Then we have a management. That's where we take all the data and everything, and we get it in front of the clients. And then, of course, there's ad spend, which goes directly to the platforms. Tell me what that investment gets you.
For some of the super high-end clients, like we did this campaign for Kizik shoes, that was $250,000 in production and $50,000 in ad spend. But it had over 5 million views. It had a very good tracking rate. It was leading to sales. You know what I mean? So you can see why a client is willing to spend $300,000 if they're going to make a ton of sales through that blitz and create a lot of awareness and also sell a lot of shoes or a lot of product, right? So that's kind of the high end. And then coming back to like the $10,000 to $20,000 question, I would say that's like, again, that would probably be more like your service. I feel like that super high end of the $300,000 blitz, that seems to be more like a product that sells well on video. And then for a service, if you're like a medical company or a law firm or just different service industries where each sale that you land, like we have a client who's an eye surgeon, and each deal that they do is about that value, is about $10,000 to $20,000, in terms of a service. And I would say that's a great place to be, is if you're spending on average per month on video, what it takes to land one deal or what you get out of one deal, then that seems to be a really good equation for people in order to get a very good ROI or a very good ROVI, like return on video investment. And what you can get for that $10,000 to $20,000 per month is a series of really good stories combined with really good product footage, and then combined with just good advertising, good messaging. And so we kind of try to do a combination of things with that monthly fee.
How do you let that smaller business know that this is not a mistake? I mean, can you explain a track record or
Absolutely. Great question. No, I think the best way, I think speaking with track record, with some clients we've had to, just to start out as we focused on results, we have said, hey, let's just start for a quarter and focus on that. And then after one quarter, we'll dial in the numbers even more to where they need to be, because we're not interested in just building, our interest is obviously the results they need. And if they can be making money back, then it's a no-brainer to keep doing video production. So it's a win-win for everybody. So I would say, the best way we try to convince them that it's not a mistake is to show them a track record and then understand where they're coming from. They are taking a risk. And so we want to help mitigate that risk by taking the first quarter to really get them more bang for their buck in that first quarter. Is that too general? I know that's kind of general, but it's more specific depending on the client.
Historically, a jack of all trades, right? I work, but in the last year or so, I've been niching down to, I do unions and I do solar and renewable. And the solar and renewable has been really interesting because it is, for me, the ability to show these tangible results. So sort of for the first time in a way that I can pitch to other renewable companies out there, I have a case study. So we created these testimonials and I have a very finite KPI that we met, and that translates into a 2, 5, 10x return. I'm building a new landing page right now to show people what that looks like. But, I think when you start to get those numbers, for me, that's what is going to help convince people. It clearly is definitely helpful. I have in my notes here that you are very spiritual. Can you tell me how that, we don't have to get too deep or specific on things, but I think maybe this is sort of related to how you were talking about connecting with stories that you should be doing that mean something to you. Do you have like a general MO of how to be a good business owner in the world and what that means? I mean, we're in a world right now where it doesn't seem like anything matters. And when we first got on the phone, I feel like we were kindred spirits kind of talking about this sort of good things. I might use it in a karmic sentence, but how does that relate to you? Because I haven't gotten this from every other person I've talked to.
Glad you asked that, because I'll give a specific answer, but then I'll bring it back to more a universal application, because I'm happy to say my specifics. I am a Christian and I love making other videos with other Christians, but I've also really enjoyed making videos with Hindus and Buddhists and just everybody, and so yes, I'm a Christian. I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And yet as I focus on that, and it's a great, my faith and my religion is one of the greatest. It really is one of the greatest sources of joy in my life, if not the greatest source of joy. That with my family, and so I'm thankful for that. I love it. It's a big part of who I am. And I would say even more than that, the reason I share that though is to tie it back to a more universal, because all these listeners, whatever faith or belief system they have, one thing that's been so valuable to me as I've gathered other people's stories is it does put me in the listener role, right? So whether I'm telling a story of another Christian who's of a different denomination than me, or whether I'm telling the story of a person who's even atheist or whatever they are, whatever their belief system is, it puts me in the listening role. And I just really feel like that's what the world needs more of right now. And so I think to tie this into what we were talking about on the phone before this, before setting up this podcast, is that you and I, we likely have different belief systems, and it's so great. What the world needs right now is for us to listen to each other and and obviously be patient and be peacemakers around it. That's honestly what I care about most when I read the news right now, is just what's the contention level? Like what's the, what's the argument level? Can we just all settle down? And I know that sounds maybe mushy or whatever, and I don't mean to come across mushy, but it really does drive me.
I kind of look at some of this as like being a business person, but also being a human being and a good neighbor. I think we need to get along and less judgment, man. I think that and if I can translate that in the work I do and sort of show how I spent 20 plus years as a journalist. I was at the San Francisco Chronicle in 99 to 2015. And one of my primary goals was to tell stories about regular people that other people could relate to. So if they read a story about them, even if they have those different beliefs, values, upbringings, I think the gold for me was showing how we're way more alike than not. And that is something I try to do in everything I do with my video work and my other work in the community. It's been such a good time to have you on the podcast, TJ. Your job as guest, as always, if you've heard us before, is to leave us with the golden nugget. This is your chance to tell us something that nobody else can tell us at this very particular moment. What do you got?
Again, I kind of have already said it, but I just think that people do care about who you are and why you do what you do. And so getting clarity on who you are and why you do what you do really is, to me, one of the best ways. I know it sounds philosophical and generic, but getting clarity on that with your business and the clients you're serving, I think is one of the greatest ways to hone in on tangible and intangible results.
And there you have it, Curious Creatives out there. This is Mike Kepka. You've listened to another episode of The Curious Creatives, results-based video strategy for our clients listening in. TJ, we'll catch you on the other side, all right? Thanks, man.
Sounds great. Thank you.